Okay. All glories to Mother Atasha, all glories to the religion of love, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to our Supreme Lord. O Lord God, please help us live out these teachings and be an example of love in the world. Jai. So we're continuing on the book Desire. And where we left off at in the book, there was this old man who worked all his life and became rich and had everything he wanted, but still he wasn't happy. And he says, now at the end of my life, I find that all the things this world gives, it takes back. Too late have I learned it wasn't money that was my heart's desire, but happiness. And he asked of her, is there a happiness that does not tremble when the world shakes? But before she could answer, there came into the place where she was sitting a monk, and with him many men whom he called brother. And bowing low before her, as was his custom, he addressed her respectfully, saying, Holy Mother, we brothers, being trained up in austerities, are followers of one who is called enlightened. And for many years now we have practiced a teaching that tells to us that the cause of all suffering is desire. And though I can well understand the wisdom of this, for all my practice of austerities, desire still is strong in me. So I have come to you, that you might help me and the brothers, who, as I, also seek some guidance in this matter. Why is it, he asked, knowing that desire is the cause of suffering, can we not let go of desire and act in accordance with our knowledge? That, she said, is because your knowledge is incomplete. Though it is true that desire is the cause of suffering, desire need not be uprooted. The problem is not desire, but what you desire. And she explained to him that at the root of all we desire is the desire for happiness. What we want, she said, we want because we believe it will make us happy. And he agreeing said, now I see that even in my desire to extinguish my desire was a desire for happiness. And going on, she said, observe and tell me what you can see. Is it not true, she asked, that the material things of this world and the happiness they bring, are they not all subject to a decrease, decay, and death? And after some thought he answered, yes, this I can see. And again she asked of him, is it wisdom to desire a happiness such as this, one that is sure to decrease, decay, and die? And being intelligent, he answered, a happiness which is sure to be lost is not happiness, but suffering. I have heard, he said, that in all the holy scriptures the ancient teachings promise an everlasting happiness, and that I do desire. But they all ask of me a faith I do not have, and for me to believe in what I do not know would be the living of a lie. And she consoled him, saying, be not troubled, for though believing is a good beginning, believing is not being. The knowledge gained from books is always the knowledge of others, and second-hand knowledge is not true knowing. Truth, she said, is earned only in experience. And she gave examples, saying, if you were to hear from an expert in the art of washing, and firm in faith, believing everything he said was true, by your believing, would you be clean? And no, he said, I would remain the same. And he did not leave that place, but stayed with her, and the brothers with him, and many his questions, and all she did answer that he might be satisfied. And he excused himself to ask among the brothers if all had heard and all had thought, and there was much discussion. And returning to her, he said, Holy Mother, now is the time of departure, and we must go our separate ways. and who knows when we will meet again in this world?" And bowing low before her, as was his custom, he thanked her, saying, "By the teaching have our problems been resolved. By your mercy our doubts have been dispelled. Myself and the brothers are all now decided to follow you, that we might walk upon the path made straight, and have but one question to ask of you before we go. What must we do next? What then is the first step upon the path? Where would we begin?" "Begin," she said, "with desire." And late into that night we sat and spoke, till she asked of me that I might speak on the subject of desire. And I was given understanding, and so said what I had been witness to, that desire is natural to all, and that all desire is the desire for happiness. And she said, "Speak now of yourself." And I admitted that I too had desired happiness. But in a knowing beyond knowledge, I knew that we, being spiritual in essence and eternal by nature, the happiness to seek was only in the eternal spiritual. This has been my desire. This have I done. Okay. Oops. So backtracking here. So here comes this monk and his monk brothers, followers of one who is called enlightened. You can guess that they're likely Buddhists. And they come in a very respectful mood to the Holy Spiritual Master, Saint Holy Mother. And this is the proper mood to approach a holy person, a saintly person, if you wish to receive instructions. If you come in a challenging mood, in an angry mood, not in a submissive mood of service and one wishing to hear and learn, then you're not going to benefit so much from the interaction with a holy person. And anyone with an open heart and some good sense can kind of feel the vibe around a holy person. I know before I had any good quality, I still don't have any really good qualities, lest they be by Mother Atasha's grace, but whenever I was around Mother Atasha in the beginning, I could feel like this wasn't some normal person, and it brought the best behavior out of me. I tried to always, be a good boy, act right, speak nicely, sit up straight, because here was, someone who truly was, holy in all respects, who was living the message and giving selflessly so that others may also come and live the message. So this mood of submissive hearing, this is the proper mood to approach a holy person. And so he asked her about a common teaching in the East that desire is the cause of suffering. And he tried so hard and so many austerities he practiced, and still he couldn't rid himself of desire. It was so hard for him, and they were unsuccessful. And so he says, knowing that desire is the cause of suffering, why can we not let go of desire and act in accordance with our knowledge? And she says, that's because your knowledge is incomplete. Yes, there's truth in what was taught, what they're following, but it was missing some pieces to the puzzle. And if you've ever worked with any complex machinery or even driven a car before, you take one piece out. You miss one or two components, and it's not going to function properly, or you're not going to get to your destination. Something's going to break down, despite how much gas you give it. So you need to have all the pieces in working order. You have to have all the proper knowledge if we're going to reach that ultimate destination of eternal bliss and knowledge and love. And she says, the problem is not desire, but what you desire. So that's the problem. It's what you desire. And speaking of Buddhism, the word nirvana which is one of the core teachings of the Buddha, and which many think is the sum bonum goal they wish to achieve, nirvana, actually means the cessation of material desires. That's what nirvana means. All material desires have ceased. But they may have misinterpreted and think that all desires cease. No, the word material needs to be added in there. All material desires cease. Spiritual desire is still great. In fact, spiritual desire is what leads us to the spiritual. And she explained to him that at the root of all we desire is the desire for happiness. What we want because we believe it will make us happy. And Mother Atasha taught us that all actions come from love or the need of it. And it's kind of easy to figure out. Everything that we do, everything we seek, our activities, all is related to bringing us happiness. Or really, for most of us, we don't actually know what happiness is. For most of us, happiness is just the temporary absence of suffering. Really. If nothing's on fire, if I'm not in pain, I'm not okay, everything's okay. All right, now I'm fine. So we're just seeking moments where we're just fine, we're okay. That's not real true happiness. And then we do get joy. We might have a good laugh or enjoy a nice sandwich or have a good meeting with some dear loved ones, and we might have some feeling of joy, some feeling of happiness. But it's limited. It's temporary. Going on, she said, "Observe and tell me what you can see. Is it not true that the material things of this world and the happiness they bring, are they not all subject to a decrease, decay, and death?" Yes, this I can see. So is it wisdom to desire a happiness such as this, one that is sure to decrease, decay, and die? Something that's sure to be lost? And the intelligent monk says, a happiness which is sure to be lost is not happiness but suffering. It's really just delayed suffering is what it is. And it's not satisfying, is it? We all want to be happy. All of us, everyone wants to be happy. And we have a right to seek happiness. It's inherent in all of us, this desire to be happy, to be content. And we're looking for it in all these places, and all these things, and all these people, and all these relationships. And we're getting little bits of happiness, sure, but it doesn't last. Everything you can think of that ever made you happy made you. Remember, our happiness feelings come from our thoughts, but you can see that they never lasted. They come, they go, they come, they go. It's so ephemeral. Like a puff of smoke. It's there for a moment and then it's gone. And the man says, "I've heard that in all the holy scriptures the ancient teachings promise an everlasting happiness. And that I do desire. But they all ask of me a faith I do not have. And for me to believe in what I do not know would be the living of a lie." Right. Right, we don't want to just jump into something blindly, like you're not really committed or understand, you're not going to have much motivation to take up these practices, to take up this path, if it's hard for you to even believe in this stuff, right? And she consoled him, saying, "Be not troubled, for though believing is a good beginning, believing is not being. The knowledge gained from books is always a knowledge of others, second-hand knowledge. It's not true knowing. Truth is earned only in experience." And she gives that nice example of hearing the art of washing by an expert, and you hear all about the theory of washing, the technique of washing. You study, well, I believe everything he says, right? But just believing, would you become clean? No. You have to actually apply that knowledge, use the tools, the water, the soap, the scrubbing technique, oops, to get clean, right? So Mother Atasha would often say, well, just try it for yourself then. Give it a spin. Try it out for yourself and see for yourself, what is your experience? What have you got to lose? Eternal bliss and knowledge. And if you feel like you wasted some time, oh, I chanted, oh, I did this, I followed some teachings, oh, what a waste of time. Well, how much time do we waste during the day watching nonsense television, reading nonsense things, flipping through our phones, looking at social media, wasting time? So give it a try, honestly. Try hearing, chanting, remembering. Try it out for yourself. Try these instructions. Try this knowledge out. Try to apply it and see for yourself. And she would often say, what do we desire more? Do we want to know about love? Or do we want to be in love? That's really what we want. We want to experience being in love. We don't just want to know about it. We want to be it. We want to actually live that. But how? Well, you got to do it. You got to actually apply the teachings, the tools. And he excused himself, and it's time to leave. And bowing low before her, as was his custom, he thanked her, saying, "By the teachings have our problems been resolved, and by your mercy our doubts have been dispelled." This is the role of the spiritual master, the bona fide, enlightened teacher, guru, in disciplic succession, is to dispel our doubts, to clarify things for us. The role of a disciple and master is one of questions and answers and loving service. The spiritual master is serving all by giving knowledge and instructions and setting forth examples, and the disciple or those coming to hear are also offering service, if even just respect, and love and reverence, which is not asked for, mind you. The spiritual master gives freely regardless of anything. But, a mood of wanting to serve, that's what brings us to love, because our constitutional position is one of an eternal servitor. So, anyways, the spiritual master clarifies all your doubts, helps you understand what the scriptures is actually saying, the inner meaning. Because, the scriptures are very difficult to understand. Very complex and convoluted, and it can be very difficult to get the meaning behind it, to apply that in our lives. And that's why we put forth our inquiries to a bona fide holy person, one who has realized this knowledge themselves. Realized knowledge, not theoretical, not someone who read a book, who went to school, and can just tell you what this says. No, but someone who can say from actual experience, actual realization, because they live it. I mentioned this before in Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna is told to seek out a spiritual master. They can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth for themselves. And at the end of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna says, now my doubts and my misunderstandings have all been dispelled. I'm prepared to act according to the will of God. That's the effect of hearing submissively from a spiritual master. Light bulb pops on. Oh, now I get it. Everything's clear now. So this brother now wants to be a follower of these teachings and walk the path made straight, become again a devotee of God. So he says, what is the first step? How do we begin this path? And she says, we begin with desire. You first have to want this. It can't be forced on you. You can't push somebody into spiritual life. You can't force somebody to act right and be right. They have to want it for themselves. I mean, think of a naughty child. No matter how many times the parents punish or discipline the child for doing naughty things, the child will still keep doing naughty things unless they desire to act good and follow the instructions of the parent, right? They have to want it themselves. They might still want to be naughty. Still might want to be rebellious. They desire because they think that will bring them happiness. Even the child, the naughty kid, is thinking, I'll have fun doing this. I'll enjoy doing this. I won't have fun if I follow. It's a terrible example, I think, but begin with desire. You have to want it for yourself. This path, the experience of love of God. And if you do want that, if you do have a desire for it, even just a little bit, as I mentioned before in last class, now everything becomes possible. It's like you open the door a little bit, and the more you grow that desire, the more that pathway also widens, and the steps before you become clearer in how to actually attain that for yourself. And late into that night we sat and spoke till she asked of me that I might speak on the subject of desire, and I was given understanding, and so said what I had been witness to, that desire is natural to all, and that all desire is the desire for happiness. Yeah. So, desire is natural to all. Everyone desires. In fact, to be desireless is impossible. It's impossible. It's a incomplete and incorrect theory that you can be desireless. No. Everyone has desire. It's like, can I live without breathing? No, everyone has desire, whether it's to eat, to drink, to lay down. Everything is coming from desire from one moment to the next. Desire is natural to all, and we need not uproot our desire, but just be mindful of what we are desiring and have knowledge that of what we are desiring, the result I get from my actions, what those effects will be. Will that happiness last, or will it be fleeting? Will it bring me closer to the perfection of life, to the purpose of life, spiritual realization, or will it be me chasing joy in another puff of smoke? And she said, "Speak now of yourself." And I admitted that I too had desired happiness. But in a knowing beyond knowledge, I knew that we, being spiritual in essence and eternal by nature, and he's talking of the real us, the spirit soul, not the body, not this, body that we see in the mirror and sitting down, we think this is us. No, it's actually not us. It's just the body. It's the dress of the soul, really. But the real us is spiritual, is eternal. And so the happiness to seek was only in the eternal spiritual. So, if you have material desires, which is fine, and we discussed that before, that we don't off the bat get rid of all material desires immediately. We don't attain nirvana, cessation of material desires, on day one. Although it's possible, actually. There's some precedence. Some rare souls, of course. But it's a gradual process, of course. We just need to have at least some desire for the spiritual, not 100% desiring only for material things, material stuff. Everything we desire that's of the material world is subject to a decrease, decay, and death, as we can analytically and intelligently observe. But desire for the spiritual, the eternal, desire for God, well, that just brings you closer and closer to the spiritual eternal, to the loving service of God, to the experience of Ananda, bliss. nature of the soul, Satchidananda Vigraha, eternal bliss and knowledge. Oof, oof, oof. Of course, theory, not theory, it was just second-hand knowledge. We want to experience that. So, the stronger our desire, the more we're willing to act accordingly to fulfill and experience that for ourselves. And if our desire is small, we might just do a little bit. But even a little bit, even one little baby step, can accumulatively have incredible effect. So, I guess I could read a little more. I could possibly just go ahead and just finish the whole book. Not too much left, but I know I'm hammering the teachings of desire. You guys heard enough about desire. You guys didn't have much questions last time because it's all pretty clear, desire. But it's good for us all to be aware with this knowledge that whatever we're oriented towards, whatever we're facing, whatever goal we have in mind, to know that if that goal is somewhere rooted in this material world and we're seeking some result or some tangible thing of this world, just know that it's not going to last. It's going to go away. It'll be there for some time and then it's going to go. Just like these bodies themselves. We need to be an illusion that these bodies will last forever. Oh no. Time will come. Death will come a-knocking when the time is right. Well, not time is right, I mean, when the time comes, I should say. So we needn't kid ourselves. If you have material desires, that's fine. But just, having knowledge that, okay, I'm going to enjoy these fruits of my labor, and that enjoyment in time will pall, decrease, decay, and just go away. And that's fine. And I gave the example how I used to be quite the gamer. I used to spend hours a day gaming online, playing mobile games. Oops. And I got some joy out of it. I did. I had fun. Sure. But because of this knowledge, these teachings, I was aware that the joy I was getting was limited and temporary. And surely it was. You win that battle, you have a good laugh with your mates, and you're enjoying for that time, but then it goes away. You're not having that same level of enjoyment the next day, let alone a couple hours later. Comes and goes. It's not that lasting high we're after, that lasting peace and love. And I was aware of that, but I still had the desire for it. See, remember I talked about no false renunciation in the past classes. See, I still knew I knew that this wasn't going to bring me closer to my ultimate goal, spiritual realization. Duh, obviously, playing, games, pew pew. That's not the best use of my time if I want to be enlightened, right? But I still had some desire for it. But I also had the desire for all the spiritual practices and the processes by which I can purify my heart and mind and come to the ultimate happiness. So I was doing both, side by side. I had material stuff and my spiritual stuff side by side. And the more you practice, I remember I said, eventually you'll get so much more joy out of all the spiritual stuff you're doing that you start losing interest in the material stuff, not just out of knowledge, but just because, well, it's not as awesome as all of this other stuff. I'm enjoying this actually more. And eventually happened to me. The time came where I did lose the interest in the gaming. The game didn't change. The game's still there. But I started enjoying so much more inside my heart through all of the spiritual practices, those spiritual desires bearing fruit. And the fruit of that is not something you hold in your hand, but something you experience in your heart. So I guess I can stop there for now. And let's pause for questions. Okay. Does anyone have any questions related to today's class on desire. Y'all can still hear me, right? I hope.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of one. Everything's like, if I've heard it before, I'm just trying to think of a question that would be beneficial. But yeah, I agree that what we desire and how we aim our desire is more important than trying to just stomp it out.
Right. Uh, think long term. A battle of attrition. Uh, you don't give up everything that you're into, right off the bat. I mean, except of course, causes of suffering, immediate causes of suffering, of course. There are some do's and do nots in the scriptures. Gaming was not one of the commandments in the stone tablets. Thou shalt not game. So, I, didn't feel that was necessary to stop that right off the bat. It becomes a shift. I did the minimum for so many years, the minimum of my vows, chanting names of God 2 hours a day, keeping my vows of vegetarianism, freedom from intoxication, illicit sex, and gambling. So acting right through these vows and be a gentleman and giving some austerity, some spiritual practices daily. So just a couple hours a day. And not just that. I tried to do a little extra. I would push myself, maybe do like maybe 2.5, 3 hours of, at least in the day, I dedicate towards spiritual stuff for God. And that's what I did just for years. I just did that. Now, of course, anytime I was with Mother Atasha, naturally, I was engaged in so much service. Oh my gosh, just naturally. And especially when we were at our center in Benares, where I was trained up a few months out of the year, all day long was in devotional service, from scrubbing the prayer room floor of the center in the morning, rushing to get flowers from Mother Atasha, class we had together, eating holy food that was made in love and offered to God and blessed, and then going out with books and distributing books, the religion of love, on the streets, to whomever, and then coming back later, working on new books and editing, or working on the website, or memes for social media, or reading, studying some texts. So all day long we were engaged in service when you're with the spiritual master. And that's just that happens to be the effect when you're with a holy person. It's so wonderful. Not only do they bring the best out of you, but you become so inspired to be engaged in devotional service all the time. And especially if you're an initiated disciple, like where I willingly became a servant of my spiritual master. So you say jump, I say how high. So I would just follow everything like a menial servant, whatever was needed to be done. But that was only so many months out of the year. And other times I'm back in the States and I'm working jobs, trying to make money, dealing with family, and hanging out with friends. So, but I didn't give up my practices, though. I still stuck with my daily sadhana, my daily spiritual practices, my 2 hours a day at least. A little hearing from the scriptures every day, trying to be mindful of God, pray, be thankful for everything I ate, things like that. And I just did that minimum for so many years. But the spiritual master would not instruct us to only do that minimum if that minimum wasn't going to be powerful and have an effect. Oh boy, fast forward years later of just doing that, and now it's like I hit a point where now I love this stuff. I want to just do devotional service all day long. I don't need to. I mean, my spiritual master's not here in front of me anymore. She left this world, of course, but her instructions are still right here in my heart, and I'm ever mindful of them, and my desire for God and the spiritual just keeps growing and growing and growing. And think of it like you might have 99% material desire and 1% spiritual desire, right? And then eventually you might little shift there eventually, and then you desire more of the spiritual than the material. And it's something you got to experience for yourself, though. It's not like you really can just believe this just because someone says, oh, I'll just do all this, I'll be happy. Well, not really, not exactly. Yes, true, but it does take time and practice, and you have to actually do it to get there. Just like anything. If you want to build a skyscraper, it's going to take a lot of manpower and years of hard work and labor and infrastructure and investment and funding, right? It's going to be a lot of endeavor, and then eventually it's built, and ta-da, we have a big, nice building, right? So same with, we're building ourselves in spiritual life. We're building ourselves up is what we're doing. We're investing time and energy in our real self, the spirit self, the real us. Think of it that way. Any time you spend in devotional service and spiritual practice is an eternal investment into your true and eternal happiness and reawakening to your natural state of being, a state of love of God, the natural state of the soul. And you are worth investing in. You are. Invest in yourself. This is real self-help. You have all these self-improvement books and motivational speakers out there. Whatever. This spiritual life, devotional service, this is the real self-improvement. And it's actually not self-improvement, it's self-realization. Haha. You don't have to improve the self, you just need to uncover the self. And actually we're going to get into that in the next class, or maybe even soon. If no one has a question, I can just roll into it. But did you formulate a question there, Brother Meat?
No, I think you answered it pretty much.
Okay. Well, let it be your call. We can just have class close early now, or I can read a little more and see where it goes. Well, up to you guys.
I can give you a question, but it's more of a comment.
Okay.
One thing for me that I've noticed is being reminded that our life is temporary, or at least thinking about death brings to light a lot of your desires. Like, you're not going to desire playing video games for the next 40 years if you remember, hey, I'm going to die. Is this shedding of skin going to be pointed towards this? And in the same way towards money, you could advance in that thoroughly, but then spiritual life is the only thing that really advances, or even has a chance to advance what happens to you after death, or
Right.
your understanding of it.
Most people never even think of death. Most people are like that ostrich with their head in the sand, just pretending death doesn't exist. Death isn't coming. We act like we're going to live forever, don't we? We care not for the repercussions of our actions, the effects of the things we do. We just go on, enjoy. And this is that devilish philosophy, actually. YOLO. Just do whatever you want, enjoy as much as possible till the end. That's the illusory philosophy of life. Let me just enjoy till the end. And I've seen the people who have this philosophy, boy, do they suffer like anything, and they struggle hard, and they have so many problems. But then they go after the things they enjoy, right? But there's two sides to that coin. Anything you desire and actually work for of the material, you will get the temporary happiness you were after. You get it. You'll enjoy that. You'll get that feeling for some time, but you also get the other side of the coin. You'll get the reactions, the karmic reactions that come with it. So you're also going to get the suffering. And it's not always apparent what that is, but we get sick, we have trouble with people, we get a flat tire. I mean, things happen in life. It's not all smooth and peaceful in this world, is it? There's tons of problems, tons of issues, things always coming up, right? You put out one fire, It's a matter of time before another one's ignited, and you got to put that one out. That's the other side of the coin for seeking pleasure of the material world. You get the joy, but you also get the disturbances that come along with it, and not always at the same time, obviously. But some things. This is the cycle of karmic reactions. As you sow, so shall you reap. You sow of the world, you'll reap of the world, and everything of the world is temporary. You sow some seeds in the spiritual, into your spiritual life. Oh, well, you reap eternal knowledge and bliss. And I've used this example before, that when you put money in the bank, it's not going to be there forever. No. It won't be there forever. Expenses will come up. You're going to need that money. It's going to get depleted. Or give it time, that financial institution might go belly up. No one ever thought that, was it Sallie Mae, Annie Mac, what was the name of that big giant bank in America? People never thought this huge financial institution would ever, go away, but it sure did. There it goes. And you might say, well, it might be insured. Well, insured by what? The government? How long do you think that government's going to last? Time shows us that every single nation eventually falls. Every empire is eventually destroyed, replaced with another one. Time destroys all things, sooner or later. Whatever you save up of this world eventually and ultimately will be lost. But when you put anything in a spiritual bank, when you bank on yourself and engage in spiritual practices, devotional service, nothing is ever lost. It's not lost. It's still there. You don't lose anything. Any spiritual practice you do, any amount of chanting God's holy names, any amount of hearing and trying to apply the scriptures, the holy teachings, God's message in your life, any amount of remembering and prayer and worship and, being mindful of the Lord, all of that is like an accumulative bank balance of getting closer and closer and closer to self-realization. It's never lost. If you quit spiritual life, you started, let's say you did some practice, okay, fine, and you lost interest, you got distracted, maybe bad association, who knows, and you quit spiritual life, for example. You gave it up. Well, nothing you did is lost. Now, if you started building a house and you lay the concrete, you start putting up some of the framework, and then you just quit and you walk away, it's eventually going to decay. The wood will get rotted. It'll be destroyed. It's not like you can come back to that any time ever in the future, 100 years from now. No. Even 10, 20 years, no, you can't. Everything's lost. But when you pick up spiritual life again, spiritual practices again, if you stop them from the past, you pick up exactly where you left off. Nothing's lost. Nothing of the eternal ecstatic spiritual is ever lost. And any measure of purification of your heart and mind through devotional service, the real practice of religion, the relinking again with God, any little step you get closer to the spiritual, well, you're right where you left off on that path. It's never lost. And imagine you keep going and going and going. If we don't succeed in life of becoming spiritually realized, and we don't make it back to the eternal ecstatic spiritual when that time of death comes, and we take birth again in the material world, well, nothing's lost. Eventually, by God's grace, we will be prodded within the heart to pick up where we left off. And when we do take up spiritual practices, we are able to pick up right there as we were and it's like you never left. Well, you did, but you're right at your same save point. Like an RPG game, I like the example. Your save point is right there. So when you start the game back up, you just log in right where you left off at. In terms of consciousness, in terms of purification of the heart and mind of all the illusion, and where you are on that path back to the spiritual, returning back to our original state of being, back to God and loving service. Which is pretty cool, huh? It's pretty neat. And you might wonder why some people just seem to be very drawn to a holy life, to spiritual practice, who are very open-hearted, open-minded, whereas others are very hard-hearted, closed-minded. Well, those who are more drawn to spiritual life, to spiritual practices, that's just a continuation of where they're picking up from their past lives. It really is, actually. And I know some of y'all might not believe that. I know there's some people who are really adamant against the teaching of reincarnation, but it's a fact as much as the sky is blue behind me. It may not be in all the scriptures, but it's in the scriptures. And I'll make a quick comment on that, because I recently had some discussions with some very close-minded individuals who were green and could not hear, and trying to explain these teachings to them was like trying to wash coal. It just wasn't. Nothing was happening. They were so bent on believing what they wanted to believe. Very, very narrow-minded, like a frog in a well. If you know the story of the frog in the well, he's in his little bubble, his little world, his little circle of water inside the well, and in flies a butterfly who explains to the frog that beyond that well there is a great ocean of water so far you can never see the end. It's without limit. And the frog's just like, no way. This is water. What are you talking about? This is water. There is no such thing as, they can't believe it. Like, most people are that frog in the well, really. And as the story goes, and the frog says, how big is this water? And he puffs up his chest up, this big? And then the butterfly's way bigger. No, this big? And eventually he gets so puffed up, thinking he can understand by his mind, actually the frog bursts. So I know it's a funny story, it's a funny analogy, but that's kind of like, people, they're very narrow-minded, like a frog in a well, and puffed up with what little knowledge they have, but their knowledge is incomplete. Just like the monks that came to the spiritual master, that they thought that desire was the cause of suffering, so they tried to get rid of desire, right? Well, the knowledge was incomplete. If they just had a few more pieces of knowledge to round out their understanding, then they could finally act properly in accord with that knowledge and actually bear spiritual results, realization of that truth. So, if you don't find too much knowledge of reincarnation in, say, the Tanakh, the Bible, the Quran, well, it's just because it didn't mention it so much doesn't mean it's not real. It's in plenty of scriptures. Tibetan Book of the Dead, the Bhagavad Gita, Mahabharata, the Upanishads, pretty much every Vedic scripture. It's common knowledge. And same with the Buddha. Lord Buddha did not talk about the spiritual world and about God. He never said there wasn't God. He just never talked about God. And there are many people in the East who are followers of different Buddhist schools of thought, and they think that, well, since Buddha didn't say anything, that means there is no God. Everything's impersonal. There is no such thing as a spiritual world or whatever. Loving service with the Supreme. Well, just because he never talked about it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Buddha didn't talk about gaming either. Gaming exists. Terrible. That's terrible. I know. So if you have, and again, the teachings that you only live once, and if you don't get it right, it's either going to be heaven at the pearly gates or eternal hellfire. That is not correct, and that's actually not in the scriptures. The interpretation of them, mind you. And some of these frogs in the well, you try to explain that to them, but they want to believe what they want to believe so hardcore that they close their ears to the truth. This is what I know, this is it. Whatever you say is nonsense, because this is it. This is the only way. This is the only truth. And, with that mentality, you can't hear anything. And by believing those teachings, they're not going to have any realization of the self, of the spirit soul, because their knowledge is incomplete. And you have to have, again, that submissive mood of hearing. And those young people, I'm not saying that, submissively hear from me, you should surrender to me. No, I'm not saying that. No. But what I'm talking about is a mood or a mindset, actually. What kind of mindset are we in when we approach the spiritual, when we approach God? Are we coming in the mindset that I'm already right and I already know everything and I'm already hot stuff, full of pride? That's not going to make any good progress in spiritual life. No. But having humility, being open to hear, wanting to be of service, thinking in a selfless way, trying to be good, not just seeking to feel good. This is the proper mood or mindset to be in for us to receive actual spiritual knowledge and hear. As it said in the books, Religion of Love, the heart filled with pride can fit nothing more. So where is there room for God? So reincarnation, it is a thing. It's legit, and it explains everything. Why someone's born poor family, rich family, beautiful body, ugly body. Born in Australia, born in America, born in India, born in Somalia. It's not just like random, It's not like the cosmos are playing roulette at the dice game, Let's see where this one goes. It's not like that. No. Everything has a cause and effect. No. There's no such thing as an eternal hellfire, my gosh. I mean, we could eternally suffer in this world, yes, if that's our desire. If we never desire the spiritual, then we will forever be in the material world, yes, if we don't desire, the proper path, yes, duh. That doesn't mean that God is so... You think God really is so scolding, so heartless that he would send his children forever in prison and never let them out? No. Come on. He sends again and again and again his message out of love to bring us back home to him. Again and again. And if we, just like children, if we're naughty and we go to time out, and then after time out we learned our lesson, I'm sorry. He's okay, I won't do that again. But if we don't learn it, we probably will do it again. So yes, you could have some hellish reactions to things you do in this life, but that doesn't mean that after you get the punishment that you can't learn your lesson and desire to be good and seek something higher, to be something better, to seek love. So everything we do in this life has an effect. Everything we desire will lead us somewhere. And if you want to know what your destiny is, where you will go at the time of death, if you really want to know what happens when I die, Mother Atasha would say, as you desire and as you deserve. It says in the Bhagavad Gita, whatever state of mind one has at the moment of death, that state he will attain without fail. And the verse next that says, so fix your mind upon me, the Supreme Lord. Fix your mind on God and come home to me. That's that's actually the spiritual loophole. If you can fix your mind upon the eternal, ecstatic, spiritual, if you can chant the holy names of God at that moment of death, even if you didn't actually make progress all the way to God, even if you still have much to purify, much work to do on yourself, you're not spiritually self-realized yet or anything like that, but if at that moment of death, it's actually, I'm telling you guys, this is real. This is the spiritual loophole. And I wish everybody knows this. I really do. If you can, at the moment of death, chant the holy names of God, remember God. Well, if your consciousness is on the eternal, ecstatic, spiritual, whatever state of mind at the moment of death, that state you will attain without fail, as you desire and as you deserve. And as you desire can outweigh what you deserve if you desire God. Isn't that cool? I mean, isn't that super cool? If you can just stick the landing. Doesn't matter how bad your routine was on the floor, your gymnastics, but if you can stick that landing, if you just at the moment of death, if you can have that desire for God, for the eternal, and the easiest way to do that is to hear or chant the name of God. Any of the names of God in the script, not just God, 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 but no, a name of God. Many names, Allah, Abba, Krishna, Rama, Vishnu, there's many, Narayana, Vasudeva. There's a wonderful story about that. If anyways want to do some homework, you could look up, there's a story from the Srimad Bhagavatam about Ajamila. Oh, this wonderful story of Ajamila. And how he was a sinful person, but at the moment of death, he remembered the name of God. Unwittingly called his son's name. He named his son Narayana, which is the name of God. And he called Narayana to his little boy. And even though he lived a very naughty life and he was going to suffer some very hellish reactions for his naughtiness, it didn't matter because his last breath was the name of God. And he was carried by the Lord's angel, his servants, and taken to the spiritual world. Isn't that nice? That's why I know for a fact Gandhi made it to the spiritual world, because when the assassin shot him, his last breath was, Hey Ram, or Hari Ram. And Ram, name of God, he went home to the spiritual world. Definitely. God promises. So, nothing's ever lost. You've got nothing to lose. Chant the holy names. Hear the word of God. Keep coming to these spiritual classes. Try to do something with your life, because nothing's ever lost. Because in the next life, and there will be a next life, if we're not fixed on God, there will be birth and death, this samsara, the cycle of birth and death. The material world keeps going round and round and round. You'll pick up right where you left off. Nothing is ever lost. Of course, everything you built in this life, your house, your family, your bank account, everything, that's all gone. And then when you're born again, completely new identity. Now you're a brand new baby in a brand new life somewhere else. Not connected at all with your past life. It's all forgotten. Well, only thing connected with is the karma you brought with you. That's and some of the your level of consciousness of how covered over or near to you are to the truth. And if you can give it your all, make God, if you desire to be spiritually realized in this lifetime, before you die, this is your desire. Before I die, I want to become self-realized. That will be your destiny. If that is your desire. And your desire is sincere and strong, and you mean it, and you try for it, you will achieve that destiny as you desire. So do you decide your destiny. Well, I sure rambled off and filled the hour. Meat just needed a little tip, and then the snowball kept going, right? Anywho, well, thank you for that. I hope you all desire that which death does not destroy. Hope you all desire love. Oh, what's that, brother? What's that, Yeti?
No, that's fine. No.
Okay,
No, that's pretty self-explanatory, that's for sure.
wonderful. All right, I'll stop there then. Oop. Timer's off.
You guys have a good evening.
You too, brother. All glories to Mother Natasha, all glories to the religion of love, all glories to the assembled devotees. Jai.